Marco, how's it going?
Great.
Okay, so first question. Obviously, chiropractic lives in the natural medicine category, but you've really leaned heavily into the holistic side of that. Why did you lean so heavily into the holistic side? Because not all chiropractors do that. Most are just doing adjustments. They kind of send you on the way. No education, no accountability. What made you kind of lean into that direction? And did you do that from the beginning?
I think from the beginning, I always knew that it was super important. And there's a few parts to your question. So I definitely want to talk about, number one, why I lean so hard into the holistic approach toward health. And that is because health is multifaceted, right? And we build our health through our daily choices, right? And choices accumulated over a long period of time become habits, right? And that's how health is built. We've got absolutely a physical component to our health, right? But then there's also a mental component. There's that emotional component. There is the social component to our health. There's a financial component to our health. There's a spiritual component to our health. And to really be a healthy person and to enjoy all of the benefits that a healthy lifestyle can bring to you, you have to kind of incorporate all these different parts, right? You can't just be super physically healthy and then be a dumpster fire in all the other categories and have like this fulfilling quality life, right? And health ultimately means the measurement of your quality of life, right? So to achieve a high quality of life in all these different, facets of our life, we need to be healthy in these facets. And it takes more than just one thing. I think that a lot of practitioners, and it's not just chiropractors, it's like everybody now, everybody's a specialist. And it's attractive to be a specialist because it's really easy to kind of like stay in your lane and be really good at one thing. Because to really help somebody tackle a problem, right, you kind of got to have like a system. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it's really easy to kind of just like help one type of person with one specific thing and get good at that one thing because you can be efficient at that. So I think that's really attractive for a lot of people, and it just kind of makes sense logistically. But at the end of the day, like, I just want more for the people around me. I just want more for the people that I work with. And I'm not going to be like the definitive guru to help somebody with every single aspect of their health. That's just not possible for one person to do. But at the same time, like, we're going to be having the conversation. Like, we're going to be having the conversations. And I'm going to do my best to guide people along the path and kind of, point them in the direction of where they got to go to get the most out of their life. Does that make sense?
It does. And I guess before we get too much farther, how would you define holistic health as you see it?
Holistic health, as I see it,
like versus what most people consider like health versus holistic health, it seems to be a very specific approach or perspective on health.
Yeah. I think holistic health is whole being healthcare. Whereas like non-holistic kind of looks at like a problem with a very narrow lens, right? So you got a wrist issue, you go to the wrist guy, and if the wrist guy is not looking at the entirety of your whole being and all of the different factors, right? That's not holistic, right? Holistic means the whole. And it's not just the whole of your body, right? It's the whole of your body, mind, heart, soul, really. And that's holistic healthcare. It's whole being healthcare. And I think there's a big undercurrent as well of not taking shortcuts or not hacking the system. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what I mean by that is let's just use kind of an easy one right now. And, I'm going to hurt some feelings, but these GLP-1s, that's a shortcut. Like, that's a hack. And at the end of the day, like, everything has its cost. Everything has its expense, and there is nothing free out there. And so these very powerful pharmaceuticals, do they achieve their intended outcome? Abso-freaking-lutely. But at what cost, right? At what cost are these GLP-1s hijacking your internal system to disallow the body from doing a natural process, which is store fat, right? In the presence of excess calories, it's a simple kind of question. How many calories are coming in? How many calories are going out? And the extra, because the body is super efficient and it's going to prepare us for a time of need, is going to store that extra, right? So to circumvent that natural process, what's the cost? I don't think that the cost of that is transparently, shown to everybody.
It's really interesting. I don't think it's an exception, but all the holistic health pillars, exercise, nutrition, there's also a cost, but it's a different type of cost, isn't it?
The cost is up front, and it's not hidden.
Interesting. Explain.
So exercise, right? In order to get the benefits of a workout, I have to get my ass up and out of bed. I have to go to the gym or, get my weights out, and I have to exert myself physically. I have to expend time and energy and willpower on the front end. And in the midst of that workout, I feel worse. Because I'm breathing hard, I'm sweating, I'm exerting myself, my muscles would rather not. We're all mammals, right? We're programmed to expend as little energy as possible. And so I have to overcome all of this. And then after all of that expenditure, after all of that struggle, then I get the benefit. So you pay first and then you receive the benefit, right? A meal is like that too, right? If my wife and I go to prepare a meal together, we have to go grocery shopping to get the quality ingredients. I mean, nowadays, we can have it delivered to our house, which is pretty cool, but there's a cost with that as well.
Yeah.
But we have to gather these ingredients. We have to prepare the food. We have to cook the food. We have to do all this stuff, right? And that's an expenditure, right? It's an expenditure of time and energy, but it's an upfront expenditure. And then after we have made the expenditure, then we receive the reward of a healthy meal and what that does. The reverse of that is, we're using this GLP-1, but there's a lot of other examples too, like, statins and blood pressure medications, is a big one too, right? So there's a lot of different things we can talk about here, but with the GLP-1, the cost is kind of after the fact. And again, we don't know what the cost truly is because I don't believe that there's any kind of transparency, in that industry.
No, there's no incentive to be transparent. It's the opposite.
No, and I mean, we know that the FDA is a captured entity at this point. They're not working to protect the interests of the American people, right? They're working to protect the interests of these companies that are going to make billions of dollars off of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the follow the money idea is like, be careful of the intentions of the people selling you something.
Right. And it's so obvious at this point. It's like, it's so obvious.
Yeah. And I definitely want to go down that route, but interesting. It's a good heuristic for life. I feel like are you paying up front or are you paying later? And I think in almost every category, if you're paying up front, that's usually the right decision. It should hurt first, feel good later. If it feels good first, I feel like you should be like really careful of that. I think there's so many, like you eat junk food, you're getting the pleasure now, you pay later.
Let's talk about drugs.
Yeah.
Even something as innocuous as like caffeine or nicotine, right? Feel good first, pay later.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, I think it's a great heuristic for life. I mean, debt works that way too.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Credit card's easy. Yeah. Credit card, easy up front, hard later. Right? There's a cost for everything.
Is there any exceptions to that, you think? Is there any shortcut that is a worthwhile trade where you're getting the benefits up front?
I don't know. I'm sure there's something out there. And, when you use debt the right way, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The right way. Whereas if you and I'm not like a financial advisor, right? But I've listened to all these people talk. And so if you're leveraging debt to then create more value in terms of an asset, maybe that is doing it the right way. I don't know. But if I had the money to just pay right up front, I absolutely would.
Yeah, it's probably just a perspective change of like, be cautious when the value is up front and then the payment is later. Just be very cautious. And if you do go into that, it needs to be done with a lot of discipline and carefulness, but you shouldn't be like seeking out like, oh, well, this one's really easy up front. This is great. There probably should be just a lot more hesitation to those solutions.
For sure. And that's the thing with health too. I'm not saying that there's no medication out there that's worthwhile taking. That's not what I'm trying to say. Right. But I think that just like you said, each of those situations needs to be kind of measured and kind of thought about and done so with a lot of discipline and with a lot of measured caution for sure.
Absolutely. Something I've noticed is, I would say, I don't want to give a timeline, but I'll say 10 years ago, and you've been doing chiropractic for 9 years total, or you were actually doing it before? Accordo is 9 years.
Yeah, Accordo's 9 years. This coming, September 26th will be 10 for us, which is big deal. I love that. But I was practicing before that too. So
then maybe you can speak to this, which is, I feel like in the last 10 years, there's been a bit of a perspective change, which was, I think the word holistic almost sounded kind of dorky 10 years ago. It was like kind of a hippie thing, it was crunchy. Maybe it felt like woo-woo, like the people that are taking essential oils to cure all their diseases. And it felt almost like scammy. But in the last 10 years, especially today, I think there's been a huge shift where people are really disenfranchised by the world of modern medicine and the solutions that have been given to us. Why do you think have you noticed the change, and why do you think there has been this shift to people are really looking for alternative medicines, for natural medicines? Have you noticed a shift as I have?
Yeah, for sure. I think more and more people are starting to wake up. Honestly, I think COVID was a huge wake-up call for everybody.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, the way I see it is the harder the hand tries to grip the sand, the more sand falls through the grip. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And COVID was wild times around here. I mean, we all remember it, and I don't think we should ever forget what they tried to pull.
Yeah.
I mean, in reality,
there really was a pre-COVID world and then a post-COVID world. And I think people's view on medicine and science being this infallible source was really shaken. And even for myself, there's like somewhat of this trust of, I don't know, the things that we've been told. And I think after COVID, people are wondering, like they're second guessing their preconceived notions about what people are giving to us. And I think there's a little bit more suspicion now. Yeah.
Well, like you said, we kind of had this trust and I did too. I mean, growing up, if I had a sniffle, right, my mom would bring me to the pediatrician, right? Because we trusted her. And I, to this day think she was an amazing doctor, right? And she tried everything in her power to serve my family very, very well, right? But, they don't know everything, and she has tools at her disposal, and that's what she was using, right? And we can go into, the stories of how that system kind of failed me personally, but the reality is, like, we had this trust. And I think the reason why holistic was kind of hippy-dippy and not really trustworthy is because, we kind of went through this time as a people where, there was a snake oil salesman on every single corner, right? With, you see the propaganda with like the hair tonics and this and that and the other thing. And I think science kind of came around to try and quantify things so that we could know something, right? And rather than just base our decision making on 100% pure marketing, right? We could base our decision making on experiments. Like, let's see some data. Like, let's see what actually works, right? And they built this kind of track record of measurable results, this trust. But with every system, no system is infallible. Right. And then when the dollars start coming in, then the corruption starts coming in, and the wrong people rise to power because the wrong people are drawn to it. Right. And so over time, right, then, more and more people start seeing like the fallout from all of this. And COVID was not like the first experiment of its kind. It's like, that's the playbook. That's how everything is rolled out. We can go all the way back to like, tuberculosis. We can go to the polio vaccine and, call me a tinfoil hat, but like there's so much documentation out there to show that that's exactly how every single other one was rolled out too. But this time around, I think that one of the big differences is that, we have the internet now.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of really vocal people that were able to kind of point out not even just anything other than just the industry's own logical incongruency and hypocrisy. The idea that a mask, a cloth mask, or even an N95 mask was going to stop the spread of a virus is just so silly. It's hilarious. Mm-hmm. The fact that we were going to social distance 6 feet and then prevent the spread of this virus was also laughable. I mean, hilarious. Like, you look at the textbooks that you grew up with in school and you see these people wearing these plague masks and burning sage. And it's like, we did the exact same thing. We just didn't have sage that we were burning and the masks looked different.
Yeah.
And if you look at that and think, wow, these guys were silly. They have no idea what was actually going on. And then turn around and like look in the mirror and you're the dude or dudette wearing a mask, driving around in your own car. Like, okay.
There's something almost cult-like about it, this idea of like, trust the science. And the minute you asked a question, you were the weird one.
Right.
And I think that there's been a huge shift where people are like, don't ask me not to question anymore. Just let me like ask some questions. And like you said, now that we have the internet, now we actually have the ability to kind of seek out some things besides the doctor recommendation. And I think there's been this cultural awakening of like, I don't think things are the way that we've been told. And I think I would like to ask some questions sometimes. Like, I don't want to be belittled or ridiculed for just asking some questions.
I mean, science isn't about trust. Science is about questioning everything.
It's a methodology, really.
Right. Science is about not trusting. Science is about proof. And if somebody's going to tell me to trust the science or that the science is settled, that person doesn't understand science. And when you said it's like a cult, it's so directly corollary. Like, medicine is the new religion. 100%. You've got like your Surgeon General at the very top, and that guy's like the Pope, right? And everything that person says just goes, right? And then below that level, you've got all of the heads of every single specialty, right? You've got like the head of cardiology, you got like the head of pediatrics, and like they're all the cardinals, right? And they've got their own domain of these, big pieces of this medical pie. And then you've got like your parish priest, right? And that's like the family practitioner, right? And then all the way down to like the altar boy, right? And that's like the nurse's assistant. And it's literally based on people's faith. And they just believe. They don't know anything. Really, if we look at knowledge and what knowledge is, everybody's decision making around their health, for the most part, boils down to faith. And they even have their uniform, right? Instead of like the bishop's hat and like the Pope's little, thingamabobber, they've got their white coat and their stethoscope, right? The nurses all wear their scrubs. They've all got their uniforms. They walk around in their churches, right? You see somebody out in public, you know immediately that's a healthcare practitioner. They got their uniform. It's all set, ready to go. And they just walk around with this cultural authority because everything that's been said from the top down has just been completely believed with unquestionable cult-like fervor.
Yeah. I don't know if people are going to be happy they called it a thingamabob.
Yeah. I just don't know the right name for it. I grew up Catholic, so sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Pope.
What you said about faith in the science or just faith in the authority, I was just having this conversation on, I was like bewildered. I couldn't figure out why I'm filled with this, I guess I'll just call it skepticism for whatever the narrative is as far as like medicine and science goes. I just always feel like very skeptical. And then I look at maybe my parents' generation, and there really isn't this skepticism. There's almost a generational gap. My feeling was they had almost a good reason for the faith because they lived in one of the most economically flourishing time in American history, right? Like the boomers, it was the economic boom. And I felt like the institutions maybe treated them really well. Like life was really good if they just kind of followed. And then my generation comes along and we're like, our carrots have like a third of the nutrients that they used to. Plastics are everywhere. Our testosterone is lower than ever. And we're just kind of looking at the fallout, not to be like nuclear about it, but we're kind of looking at the fallout and it's like, is this the divide? Is that I'm experiencing somewhat of the aftermath of what they did and it's not as good for my generation it was for them. And so there's just maybe more skepticism for me. Maybe there's a generational gap there.
Yeah. I mean, there are so many corollaries and so many things tie in here, right? Right before the boomers, we came off the gold standard. I think that has a huge thing to do with everything. The fact that we have a debt-based fiat currency, I think we can't not talk about that in any conversation about the status on where we're at with our country and the generational gaps that exist. In addition to that, we look at these different industries where you look at like, the war industry, you look at the health industry, you look at the banking industry, and, at a certain time and for a certain, portion of our population, at the top of the pyramid scheme, things are pretty sweet. But as we keep adding layers to the bottom of this pyramid scheme, things are not quite as sweet.
Yeah. I'd love to come back to this idea of holistic health. And you're talking about the idea of specialization versus the holistic approach, which is like, you can't just look at one category. If your wrist hurts, sometimes you need to look higher up in the arm. And I think similarly, health is just so interconnected. How do you see specialization with this holistic idea? Can you specialize and still have a holistic approach, or does it need to be one or the other?
I think everybody should be really, really good at what they can be really, really good at. In terms of like mastery, it's hard to master a lot of different things. And health is really hard. And the reason why I say that is because there's so much that goes into it. And healthcare is really, really hard because at the end of the day, like I can't do it for anybody. Like I can't. I want to. It'd be great if I could. But we all have to do it for ourselves.
Which is not something that most doctors are going to say, by the way. Most doctors are like, no, I do have the solution for you.
Right. Yeah, but that's not accurate.
Yeah, it's not true.
Blatantly false. So I think the reason why specializing in something is really important is, let's say I'm like a weight loss specialist, right? And I have a system that I've dedicated my life to, and I can take somebody from where they are at right now, wanting to lose, let's say 200 pounds, to implementing the changes that they need to make to lose those 200 pounds and keep them off, long term. I don't think you could be that person with that system and also me with the system that I have simultaneously. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You almost need like a team of people. Now, could one business do all of these things if they had 20 years to kind of like, build this thing? Sure, maybe. But one person? I don't know. So I think like specializing is important, right? We're going to not be able to master that many things in a lifetime, right? Especially when you consider it takes like 10,000 hours to like master something, right? So I think specialization is important, but at the same time, like we can't lose the forest for the trees. And so every doctor, in my humble opinion, needs to, number one, be a teacher. We need to be teaching people to fish rather than just handing out fishes. Number one, the root word of the word doctor means teacher. So number one, our doctors need to be teachers. And number two, every doctor needs to be holistically minded, whether or not they're going to specialize.
It sounds so obvious. That's the crazy thing. It's like, why is this a conversation that needs to be had? It feels insane. I know there are many doctors. I think there's a surgeon I was watching, and he was like, I can speak for myself and I can speak for a lot of my colleagues. He's like, we didn't take any nutrition classes. It's like, we didn't learn anything about exercise, but they're the ones giving out these pills. But it's like, you guys don't even understand the basics. And we've had a lot of conversations. It's like the very basics of health in all the categories is actually pretty simple. And I think many of these specialists are missing some of the most basic things, like handing out, like you said, like blood pressure medication, but they're not at all looking at like, what are you doing? What have you done this year? They're just like, here's the thing. That to me blows my mind. It's like, this shouldn't even be a conversation.
Yeah.
This is not like groundbreaking, but I mean, in a way it is, but it just feels like this shouldn't be groundbreaking.
Well, it's not glamorous to like do the real work. Mm-hmm. Like if you look at like the highest level athletes like in the world, right? They're not doing the latest fitness trends. They're doing the stuff that's worked since the beginning of freaking time. Mm-hmm. Right? Like I am just getting back into wrestling, right? I really enjoyed CrossFit for a lot of my adult life. I've enjoyed rock climbing for a lot of my adult life, and I'm finding wrestling again. And I'm looking at all of these like world-class wrestlers, right? And their workout routine looks a lot like, normal stuff.
Yeah. Like
deadlifts, cleans, explosive work. Like they're not doing the latest fad, and it's boring.
Yeah.
And health is kind of like that too. Like there's nothing new or shiny or like glitzy really that's going to be out there and make somebody healthy. Do we have new tools? Yeah, sure. Do we have new things that are pretty awesome and fun and they have some potential? Yeah, but the reality is like those need to be like the additions after the fact, not like the basics. Mm-hmm. Like until you nail the basics, you shouldn't be looking to do anything wild or crazy or different or outside of the norm, right?
Yeah, I think of someone having like low energy or something. Like, what do I do for low energy? He's like, you're not going to like the answer. Right. Or actually an easier one would be like, I want to get a six pack. How do I do it? You're not going to like the answer. It's going to be like, eat well, work out a lot, get some good sleep. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you're not going to like it because it's the hard stuff and it's the boring stuff.
Right. Meanwhile, whoever invented the sticky-on-y things that pulsate your abs for you made a million freaking dollars.
Yeah.
I guarantee you that thing has not produced one six-pack ever in the history of its implementation.
Yeah. Or if it did, it was because people were doing the other things that actually work. And then they're like, oh, it's the machine.
Right. So whether you're looking at the Bowflex or the Total Gym 2000 or the ab roller, none of those fitness models.
Hold on. I like the ab roller.
I like it too. I love the ab roller. I think it's great. But what you got to realize is that none of those fitness models got looking that way using that machine.
Yeah.
They're doing their own thing. They just got hired because they look awesome.
Yeah.
All right. That's like 101, right? And so I love the low energy one. Somebody's like, what do I do for low energy? What do they want to do is they want to just ingest some little thing and then all of a sudden magically have energy. What they need to do is get enough sunshine, go to bed on time, eat the right types of food, exercise daily, right? And make sure they're turning off their screens a half hour before bedtime, timing their meals the right way. That's all boring stuff.
Yeah.
And nobody's making money off of that.
No, that's true. I saw a video and it was a guy talking to himself and he's like, man, I would give anything just to get a solid 8 hours of sleep. And the other guy's like, what about going to bed 8 hours before you wake up? He's like, nah, I can't do that. That's that's just like health in general, isn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely. That's nailed on the head.
So back to this holistic health idea. What is your approach to holistic health? Do you find like there are main categories that you focus on to, like you said, holistic health is like this 360 approach, but is there an easy way to like conceptualize what are the areas of health that we should be working on?
Yeah, I love visual constructs. It's one of my favorite ways to like kind of approach the world. It kind of like compartmentalizes things into smaller, more bite-sized pieces, and then structurally, visually, I can like build it in my head, right? And I think that there are 4 pillars or 4 cornerstones to a really healthy life. And you can spend 10 years easily diving into each one of these pillars and like really fleshing out this part. The first one is going to be a sound nervous system. And so as we all know, our spinal cord, right, connects our brain and our body, right? And I just want to dive into this a little bit because philosophically, this is kind of the one that gives me the chills the most. At the moment of conception, the first structure that we can see form is the gray matter of the brain, right? So we've all seen online though that picture of like sperm meets egg, shining light. The first thing that forms is the gray matter of the brain.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. The second thing that forms is then what becomes the spinal cord. All right. So hear me out here.
Yeah.
I love deep diving into this stuff. Now, the separation of man the physical and man the spiritual is called what?
I don't know. What is it?
You do know.
Help me.
Sorry, man the physical, disconnected from man the spiritual.
I'm a toddler.
All right, so the separation of man the physical and man the spiritual is called death.
Oh, gotcha.
The opposite of that, life, right, is the intimate connection of man the physical and man the spiritual. And at the moment of conception, the first structure that we can recognize when that union takes place of man the physical and man the spiritual is the brain. The brain is the physical connection between man the physical and man the spiritual.
Interesting. I've not heard this before, so I'm curious where this is going.
This is just a Dr. Marco original. I like to sit and think about stuff, right? And this is just going to be fun, and I'm just going to say it.
Yeah, I love it.
Einstein, one of the smartest humans to ever live, right? He had this awesome theory of relativity, right? E equals mc squared, which basically means energy equals mass times the speed of light, or constant squared. So energy equals mass moving really, really, really fast.
Okay.
And energy and mass are the same. All right, you following me here?
Yep.
And we undoubtedly know that we are all imbued with a life energy. It keeps our cells together because entropy is constantly working on tearing our cells and all of the matter and all of the atoms that make everything further apart. So there is energy that puts force into keeping this all together and animating it on the plane of existence that we're on, right? I believe that the brain is an energy retarder.
Okay. Keep going.
You got it. So I believe the brain is like an energy brake.
Interesting.
Like slows it down. I think that the brain takes our soul energy and slows it down to the point where our soul energy can manifest itself on the physical plane by taking all of these atoms and putting them together into the human body.
Wow. Dude, when I asked that question, I was not ready.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
So the brain is really important.
Yeah.
And so too is the spinal cord and all of our nerves, because our mental brain energy transmits through all of our body parts, cells, organs, tissues, through our nervous system. That energy is literally traveling through our body. And acupuncturists talk about this in terms of channels throughout our body. Eastern kind of thoughts on health talk about like chakras and stuff like that. These are all any kind of like health, holistic health type of system talks about the flow of life energy through the body. And chiropractic is no different. It's just that in chiropractic, we call it innate intelligence that flows from the brain through the spinal cord, through all of your nerves to the entire rest of your body. That connection of your life force through your nervous system, the connection of all of your chi through your meridians, the connection of your life force through all of your chakras, right? That is a pillar of health. Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So that's a sound nervous system. That's one pillar of health. Making sure the life force of your body can communicate with your body and reach every single cell in your body with zero interference whatsoever. That's a pillar of health.
This feels like something that really does come from your work as a chiropractor. Because if I asked this question, I wonder how many people would say nervous system as like one of the pillars.
We all forget about it because it works really well most of the time.
When it stops working,
it
suddenly becomes very obvious.
Yeah, I'm going to get a little serious, but I've taken care of a lot of people in wheelchairs, right? To that person, the nervous system is really freaking important. The other pillar of health is going to be what we put in and on our body. So our life force gathers the atoms around us and turns it into our body, right? What we put in and on our body becomes our body.
I've heard you say in and on. It's something I'd not heard anyone else say in and on. Most people are just like nutrition, but I think you said something like, oh, well, what about what you're putting on your skin, clothes or creams? But that goes in your body also. Like your skin is
the skin is the largest organ.
Yeah.
And it absolutely is absorptive. Everything we're putting on it matters, from our clothes to the creams to the sun we're exposed to, to the gases that we're exposed to, the fumes, the chemicals, like all that stuff. So what goes in and on your body is really, really important. It becomes the cells of your body, right? And I really reject this hyperfixation on macro counting. And that as long as it fits in your macros, it's fine to eat. So like if a Twinkie fits in my macros, I'm going to eat it.
I've heard this all the time.
Right. So as long as it's in the macros, it's fine, because it's just literally macros in, whatever out. And that I reject that completely.
It's very narrow-minded of like you have one singular goal, which is like get a good bicep, but you're sacrificing this entire other nutrient category, right?
Well, absolutely. But bigger than that, it's like those molecules that I ingest are becoming my body. And if I want to be a Ferrari, I'm not putting Yugo parts in the Ferrari.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like, if I'm going to be this high performance organism, if I have high demands for my fitness, ability, longevity, flexibility, I'm going to put the highest quality ingredients in that organism that I possibly can. So what we put in and on our body is extremely important. That whole pillar, you could spend how long to try to master. Yeah. And it's a little bit different for everybody, right? Macros are great because they can be an amazing building block for somebody to make sure they're getting the basics right. And I don't dislike macro counting. So don't take me out of context. If you're just
eating like carbs, like you're going to run into some trouble.
Absolutely.
Obviously.
Right. So don't take me out of context here. But, all of these diets, a lot of them work. Like if you could look at Atkins, or you look at paleo, you look at like Mediterranean, you look at Whole30, they work. Why? Well, because in order to follow that system, you have to become a disciple of what you put in and on your body, right? And that discipleship is like learning a martial art. Like, wrestling works, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu works, Muay Thai, it works. Right? If you master 4 or 5 of those, then you don't have to be a disciple of the one, but you have enough knowledge to kind of integrate that. And so I would tell anybody, if you're struggling with nutrition, do one thing for like 3 years. Do one thing for a whole year, see what happens. And then when you get bored, cool, do a different thing, but you gotta stick with it until you've mastered it, until it's not even hard to do it anymore. And if you do Whole30 and you do paleo and you do carnivore, I'm not huge on carnivore, but, and you do this other thing, right? By the time you've done 5 years of really intense discipleship work on what you're putting in and on your body, you're going to have it figured out. I'm just saying. Yeah,
I think the shifting, trying to find like the one thing is, I think, an error that we're making in all sorts of ways. So as like a business guy, it is like the mistake in business, which is you're trying a business model and then you run into a problem and you're like, oh, this business model is terrible. And then you switch to a different business model. then the thing you learn, like the wise, the wisdom here is all the business models work, but you just have to stick with one at the very least. Just stick with it, and it'll work. And with the diet thing, you'll see that a lot of the wow statistics are like, what do you say, paleo versus the average American diet. It's like, man, that's a low bar. Basically, anything works. If you're comparing it to the average American diet, like they all work because at the very least you're doing the basics right, which is just like stop eating the Twinkies, right?
I mean, yeah, a little more to it. Stop eating the Twinkies, but I mean, getting the basics.
The no Twinkie diet. I'm famous for it.
Getting the basics right is huge.
Yeah,
it's huge. So you can spend a long time diving into the what goes in and on your body pillar of health, right? So now we've got 2 pillars.
Yeah.
So the other pillar is going to be moving your body. So our bodies are designed to move.
We should be doing this podcast standing up.
I mean, that would be really great. Really great. But we are sitting with pretty good posture.
It's okay. Yeah,
I mean, we're twisted a little bit, but the core's engaged at least. Working on keeping my pelvis level. But our bodies are designed to move. And not only are they designed to be able to move, they are designed to need to move. So here's the big distinction. A lot of people hear our bodies are designed to move, and it means, okay, they can. They need to. Our joints literally are not nourished unless they move.
How is that? They're not nourished. I'm not familiar.
None of the joints in our body have their own blood supply. None of the cartilage in your body has its own blood supply. None of the joint capsules. All of the joints in your body are nourished with blood, nutrients, and oxygen through the bone in your body. That's why all the ends of our long bones are spongy bone.
Gotcha.
Right? So as a chiropractor, it's a really big deal. All of our vertebrae are completely, the front blocky part of that thing, the vertebral body is 100% spongy bone. Its job is to nourish the disc. The ends of our long bones, the job is to nourish the joint. And it is the movement of our joint that pushes that nutrients in and out through simple diffusion. And when our joint doesn't move the right way, they don't get the nutrients and oxygen that they need. And when our tissues do not move because they're not getting the nutrients and oxygen that they need, they die.
Interesting. Is this the same with the spine, by the way?
Yeah, absolutely.
It has the sponginess in the spine?
Spongy bone.
The spine also does? Okay.
Yes.
So if you're sitting all day, especially with bad posture, you're
it's not
sort of
squishy.
Sorry. It's spongy.
It's spongy bone, but it's not squishy.
In my brain, spongy is just like, squishy.
No, it's not squishy.
All right, so you're squishy bones. No, so your spine, let's say someone's sitting all day and their spine is kind of constantly in a single and also a bad form. You're saying there's less blood supply there. Is that true?
Absolutely.
So what happens with the less blood supply?
The tissues die.
And what does that look like?
A lot of times doctors will call that arthritis.
Oh.
So in the spine, it looks like degenerative disc disease. It looks like degenerative joint disease. In other joints, like the knees, fingers, ankles, it looks like osteoarthritis.
Wow.
Right?
So is the modern life, do you think like, let's say like 100 years ago, arthritis, osteoporosis, these things are way less than we have now then because of the movement they were doing, being in the farms, walking around?
Yeah, I think we have to go back a little bit before 100 years ago. But yeah, if you look at like a lifestyle of somebody who has physical work as a mainstay of their lifestyle, that person's going to be a lot more mobile for a lot longer and have much better markers of fitness, ability, and longevity long term.
So we need to move. Does that mean anytime we're not moving, we're deteriorating? Or is there a good form of like, what's the balance between rest and activity as far as joints and blood flow goes?
Yeah, I mean, rest is super important, right? We're not like deteriorating when we're sleeping the right way. If we sleep, if somebody falls asleep on the couch and their neck is like cranked over really in like a shit position, that neck is not going to be recovering the way that it could if it was like in a good position, right?
Okay.
So sleeping with the right position helps your body heal, right? But sitting, as a lifestyle, the human body was never designed to sit as a lifestyle. There's a lot of people out there that say that the human body wasn't designed to sit, period, and that the indigenous cultures with the best like outcomes for low back don't have chairs.
Yeah, they're kind of squatting, right?
They squat when they do need to rest, and then if not, they're just laying flat on their back on the ground.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little different than what we're doing now. Yeah, right. Interesting. I think Japan, they have their mattresses are different than ours, and I think it kind of simulates that lying flat on the ground thing. It's only like a futon or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be said about like the best sleeping, type of medium. I'm sure that 10 experts could get together and come up with 20 different opinions on what your mattress should be like. I think that, a mattress needs to support the natural curvatures of your body. Not, I guess, fight those too much, but then at the same time, not like indulge, I guess, excess curvature in your body as well.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
We actually just got rid of a mattress and it was starting to banana.
Oh yeah.
And that was killing me.
Right.
Just absolutely destroying me.
Yeah. Well, they say if you got a mattress, if it's like a regular coil spring, the industry says replace every 8.
Okay.
And, a coil's not going to be as supportive, 8 years after you bought it with, 8 hours a day of use as it was when you first got it. So. Mm-hmm.
So as far as movement, to kind of wrap up this pillar of health, what do you recommend as far as, it sounds like there's 2 components. It's movement, but you said sleeping, we're not moving, but just being in a good posture, I guess, encourages proper blood flow as well, as far as joint health goes.
I mean, humans need periods of movement and also rest. So it's got to be the right movement and it's got to be the right rest. And it's also really important that our movement is varied. We don't want to be doing literally the exact same movements day in and day out. That can be detrimental as well, right?
Yeah.
I think the easiest way to think about this is you need weight-bearing exercise in a religious way.
Weight bearing rather than what would be like a non-weight bearing exercise, like running maybe?
So all the swimmers are going to be real mad at me.
Oh dear.
Right. They're going to be real mad at me. But when I say weight bearing, I mean like you have to have gravity on you. Swimming is amazing for joint health in a lot of ways. It's amazing for our cardiovascular health in a lot of ways. It's not awesome for retaining bone mass because we need that gravity there too. So again, all the swimmers are going to be really mad. My mother-in-law is an avid swimmer.
But so like
Sorry,
swimming,
Sandra.
keep swimming, but like do other things also.
Keep swimming, and a 20-minute walk a day is going to be all you need to balance that out. Mm-hmm. But she does, so
yeah,
she's good.
So movement and posture would that be kind of the summary for the third pillar here?
Yeah, movement and posture.
Nice. And what is the fourth pillar?
The fourth pillar, it's a broad one, right? So that's going to be like mental, emotional, spiritual health. This one has to do with who do you allow in your social circle. This one has to do with personal boundaries. This one has to do with untangling, traumatic experiences in your life. This one has to do with finding and experiencing love. It has to do with loving yourself. It has to do with understanding your purpose here on this plane of existence and getting right with your maker, right? All the stuff that like so many of us struggle through and battle alone. And I'm not the guru that's going to help anybody with that, but down here in Virginia, the church scene is like popping. There are a lot of people that have amazing church communities where they're exploring all of this stuff together in really healthy ways. And I think that's super important, right? Making sure that, you know why you're here and you're doing right by your purpose.
Yeah.
And then how you are in fellowship with other people, that you're living in integrity for yourself and all of that. That's a huge part of health.
As you're saying these things, it is a really good framework for health, because when I look at the ways that people are struggling today, and I think of like the obesity crisis, the mental health crisis, and actually interesting, I think there's a spiritual crisis as well, because in many ways, postmodernism is mostly like a disrobing philosophy of it's breaking down walls, but it didn't really give a lot in return. So I talk about this a lot. The new atheist movement was this idea of getting rid of all of the old traditions and spiritual frameworks. And the assumption was that a replacement was just inevitable and we were going to figure it out, but we didn't really figure it out. In many ways, we were left kind of like with a hole, a spiritual hole, not like a WHOLE, but a gap. And so when I look at society, it seems like we're struggling in really all four pillars terribly.
Absolutely, because we've stripped it all away.
Yeah.
We've had we've had thousands of years of cultural wisdom that we just decided we didn't need anymore, and that we have a better way. And in reality, like, what have we really replaced it with? And I believe in our country, we've really replaced it with consumerism.
Yikes. That's not a good replacement.
No. And I'm open to debate what we've replaced it with, but like, you can even look at our communities. We just had Halloween, right? And our Halloween trick-or-treating crew is one of the biggest and coolest that I even know of in terms of like my contemporaries, because we've got 2-3 neighbors now that get together and we trick-or-treat, right? But most people don't trick-or-treat anymore. Most people trunk-or-treat.
Okay.
Because we've outsourced our communities. Most people's communities come from some place that they go out and do business with. So, I mean, I'm happy to provide a community here at the practice because we need it. And I love that people, come to Accordo Chiropractic and they find community here. But community is becoming a commodity, and there are so many people that their gym is their community, right, their church is their community, but their physical community is rarely their community. You know what I'm saying? And back in the day, it wasn't really like that. Like, where you lived, your neighborhood was your community. When I grew up, we played Ghost in the Graveyard in my neighborhood, and when we all trick-or-treated, there was a ton of kids out running around because we all knew each other. We all hung out, right? And that's just a small example of how we've commoditized something that you never would have thought would have been commoditized, right? Yeah. But, good food is another thing. We can't just expect to have quality nutrition everywhere we go to get food. Exercise is another one of those things. If my great-great-grandfather were to materialize in front of me and knew that I was paying money to go move my body, he would laugh.
Yeah, that's like default.
I mean, he'd be like, bro, like, plow the field.
Yeah.
Like, cut down some trees. Like, there's stuff to be done.
The ultimate grandpa advice. I don't know, chop some wood. What are you talking about?
But that was built in.
Yeah.
And now it's not.
Wow.
So we had all of this cultural wisdom, and they had it figured out, at least in a lot of ways, right? Obviously, I'm not trying to go back to like the Salem witch trials and try to navigate that, right? But we kind of threw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah, agreed. Like, of course, like, we need to progress as a society in all the categories, science, all the categories. But I think the idea is you need to progress, but you're not like you said, throwing out everything. It's not like we're smarter than our ancestors. Right. Well, not in every way. In some ways, there's like new inventions and new discoveries, but it's like, I don't know if we're like so much, it's like the hubris of like, oh no, we're so much smarter.
We might be smarter, but we're not wiser.
Ooh, that's true. The difference between knowledge and wisdom.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. The other part of that too is like, we can't parent our kids. And I'm not trying to throw shade on parents. Don't misconstrue what I'm trying to say here. But there was a point at which human life was very cyclical, right? Let's just take the native population of this country, right? Mm-hmm. So somebody was born, right? Then they grew up, and then they had kids, and everything that their kids were going to experience, they had already experienced, right? And then they died. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty easy to guide your children through things that you've already lived through. So for me, having been born in 1985, right, I would have been very well equipped to guide my children through Ghost in the Graveyard as an elementary school kid, right? I would have been very well equipped to help them navigate America Online, right? Instant Messenger when they were in high school, because that's what I did, right? But the reality is that our culture keeps changing so quickly because our culture is so heavily based on our technology, right? That parents can't possibly prepare their kids as thoroughly as they could.
Yeah.
Like as if my kids were going to go through all the things that I did exactly when I did, I could really help them prepare. I could give them some answers. Like we could help develop more cultural wisdom, right? But because I don't know what it's going to be like to be a kid in elementary school where my buddy's got a cell phone and I don't know what that's going to be like. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so our technology is just outpacing our ability to like bestow wisdom upon the next generation.
Feels like we need to kind of go back to first principles instead of this sort of like, well, here's how to do AOL, coming back to like, well, what are we actually trying to achieve here? It's like community. So maybe community is going to change and how we go about it is going to change, but maybe it's just time to go back to first principles. Does that make sense? Instead of like the shortcuts of, well, here's how I personally did community when I was a kid. It might be like, we don't have the same options. Life looks a little different technologies. So maybe just focusing on the goal of, well, we need community. So what does that look like today? Maybe I don't know, but maybe we can just fall back on some of those first principles.
Well, this is why I love being a health care provider, because it all comes back to health, in my humble opinion. What are we trying to accomplish here, right? We're trying to accomplish the highest level of quality of life, right? And we look at these pillars, right? And when you're talking about first principles, like what are we trying to accomplish here with this technology? How do we use this the right way? Because our cell phones, I mean, and I'm guilty of this too, it's an amazing tool, but it can also be a destroyer of my joy daily. And the less I'm on it, the happier I am.
Yeah.
Do I love having this tool in my pocket? Yes, because if I run out of gas, I really don't want to have to try to find a payphone. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, directions were terrible as a kid without GPS. That's so nice.
I mean, we used to, but I even grew up with MapQuest.
Yeah,
and that was really nice.
Print it out before you go into a friend's house or something.
So easy. My grandfather didn't have MapQuest.
Yeah.
You know, he busted out the full road map, the AAA road atlas. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, times change, but human nature doesn't change.
Exactly. So at least we have that.
Yeah, and it's so great when you go back and read like ancient philosophy. You're like, wow,
it's the same.
We're dealing with the exact same things that we've always dealt with in a different context, and so human nature is the same. Our needs are still the same, and pursuing the highest level of health in every single facet of your health, I believe, is the best way to achieve the highest quality of life that somebody can.
Yeah. Well, let's wrap this up with maybe something actionable. 4 pillars of health. What would be one piece of advice you would give someone in each category?
I mean, to a hammer, everything is a nail, right? Yeah. So I would say where you need to start always is with a sound nervous system. Your energy system in your body, right? Your life force needs as little interference as humanly possible for everything else to work the right way and work better. After that, right, then you pick the pillar where you've got the biggest discrepancy. And that takes a little bit of soul searching. If somebody's grossly overweight, right, this is just an example, they might think that their first pillar needs to be what goes in and on their body, but what if it's the other pillar? What if it's the mental, emotional side of that, and they just don't love themselves?
Yeah.
You know, they just don't love themselves enough to say no to the cookie and yes to the exercise and the salad, just as an example, right? And nobody's going to have that answer for you. There are people that can guide you along your way. But what I would say is, as an actionable step, it's always worth it. The journey is worth it. And every step along the way that gets you closer to your highest level of health and your highest self is absolutely 1,000% worth it. And if you don't want to do it for yourself, fine. Do it for all the people that you love, that love you, that are looking to you to serve them, help them, support them. because we need each other.
Yeah.
We need each other now more than ever.
It reminds me of, I don't know if it would be a quote, but it was this idea of think of someone you love, and a lot of people say that they're willing to die for them.
Oh, yeah.
But like, are you willing to live for them? So are you willing to be healthy for them? Are you willing to have a positive outlook on yourself so that you can be there for them? And I think that that's a good motivation. If you don't have the internal motivation to do it for yourself, but to live well for others, maybe is a good place to start.
Absolutely.
Cool. Marco, thank you, man.
Appreciate you, buddy.